Yes. One more. Big one. Bigger one. I think it will go. Yeah, you. Okay, so yeah,
Nice.
coming. Ayo. Hey. One for you. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gaur Pimanande. Then Vishupad Paramahamsa Pri Vrajagachaja Stotra Sapta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Shirabai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Iskan BBT Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinama Sankirtana Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jainita Gauda Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Taksurimritam Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyayevasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Ram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the God of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart, it becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreya Sayalokasya Dhanyam Swasyayana Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasaram pangam langayate girim yatkripat maham bande Shri Gurum Dinatharanam. Yatkripat maham bande Shri Gurum Dinatharanam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. We are continuing Canto number 1, chapter 6, conversation. 30. Yesterday we read a few texts, so text 30, yeah? 30. 1 second. 30. 30. Mm. Mm. No, we read 30 also. Haribo. Jai. Welcome. So 31 actually. Canto 1, Chapter 6, 31. 31. Antar Bahish Cha Lokams Trin Paryemi Askandita Vrataha Anugrahan Maha Vishnor Avigata Gatihi Kvachit Antar Bahischalokam Trin Paryemyaskandita Vrataha Anugrahan Mahavishnor Avigata Gati Kvachit Antar Bahischalokam Strin Paryemyaskandita Vrataha Anugrahan Mahavishnor Avigata Gati Kvachit Antar Bahischalokam Strin Paryemyaskandita Vrataha Anugrahan Mahavishnor Avigata Gati Kvachit Paryemyaskandita Vrataha Anugrahan Mahavishnor Avigata Gati Kvachit Antar Bahischalokam Strin Paryemyaskandita Vrataha Anugrahan Mahavishnor Avigata Gati Kvachit Paryemyaskandita Vrataha Anugrahan Mahavishnor Avigata Gati Kvachit. Antaha. In the transcendental world. Bahihi. In the material world. Cha. And. Lokan. Planets. Trin. Three. Three divisions. Paryemi. Travel. Askandita. Unbroken. Vrataha. Vow. Anugrahat. By the causeless mercy. Mahavishnu. Of the Mahavishnu. Karanadakshay Vishnu. Avighata. Without restriction. Gatihi. Entrance. Kvachit. At any time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Since then, by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, I travel everywhere without restriction both in the transcendental world and in the three divisions of the material world. This is because I'm fixed in unbroken devotional service of the Lord. Kindly repeat after me. Since then,
Since then,
by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu,
by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu,
I travel everywhere
I travel everywhere
without restriction,
without restriction,
both in the transcendental world
both in the transcendental world
and in the three divisions
and in the three divisions
of the material world.
of the material world.
This is because
This is because
I am fixed
I am fixed
in unbroken devotional
in
service
unbroken devotional service
of the Lord.
of the Lord.
Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there are three divisions of the material spheres, namely the Urdhva Loka, topmost planets, Madhya Loka, midway planets, and Adho Loka, downward planets. Beyond the Urdhvaloka planets, that is to say, above the Brahmaloka, are the material coverings of the universes, and above that is the spiritual sky, which is unlimited in expansion, containing unlimited self-illuminated Vaikuntha planets inhabited by God Himself, along with His associates, who are all eternally liberated living entities. Sri Narada Muni could enter all these planets in both the material and spiritual spheres without restriction, as much as the Almighty Lord is free to move personally in any part of His creation. In the material world, the living beings are influenced by the three modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. But Sri Narada Muni is transcendental to all these material modes. And thus he can travel everywhere unrestricted. He is a liberated spaceman. The causeless mercy of Lord Vishnu is unparalleled, and such mercy is perceived by the devotees only by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, the devotees never fall down, but the materialists, that is, the fruitive workers and the speculative philosophers, also known as karmis and gyanis, do fall down, being forced by their respective modes of nature. The rishis, as above mentioned, cannot enter into the transcendental world like Narada. The fact is disclosed in the Narasingha Purana. Rishis like Marichi are authorities in fruitive work. And rishis like Sanaka and Sanatana are authorities in philosophical speculations. But Sri Narada Muni is the prime authority of transcendental devotional service of the Lord. All the great authorities in the devotional service of the Lord follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni in the order of the Narada Bhakti Sutra. And therefore, all the devotees of the Lord are unhesitatingly qualified to enter into the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha. Translation again. Since then, by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, I travel everywhere without restriction, both in the transcendental world and in the three divisions of the material world. This is because I'm fixed in unbroken devotional service of the Lord. So the very clear distinction is being made between those who are karmis and gyanis, both of which, even yogis actually, that verse is there. Bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakale ashanta Krishna bhakta niskama atayeva shanta. So Narada Muni is in that category of being niskama without any tinge of material desire, totally, fully fixed, totally absorbed in transcendental activities, specifically of bhakti or devotional service. This point comes across again and again, that only, that's also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, only pure unadulterated devotional service can actually bring one to the Lord. Only pure unadulterated devotional service qualifies one to actually enter the spiritual world. So Narada Muni is a prime example of such a personality. He is described here as the transcendental spaceman. He has this special benediction. Of course, Prabhupada mentions that anyone who follows, and that's where we come in, anyone who follows in the footsteps of Narada Muni, our Guru Parampara, our line is specializing in activities of bhakti, of devotional service. And therefore, anyone who follows in the footsteps of Srila Narada Muni can also attain the same destination. Same destination means can also enter the spiritual world. So we've been reading about how Narada Muni, he's been revealing to Srila Vyasadeva his personal experience in previous life, how he came to the position of being who he is at present, as the son of Lord Brahma. So he's one of the 12 Mahajans, and He's especially important for Vaishnavas. Why he's important for Vaishnavas? Because he specializes. Narada Muni specializes in the two main divisions of dharma. Dharma is meant to be everyone's, actually, dharma is what distinguishes, Prabhupada would explain, what distinguishes humans from non-humans, or Prabhupada would say religion. It is only those in the human form who can take up and apply the principles of dharma. Animals cannot, other species cannot. So dharma is meant to be the unique feature of those who are fortunate to attain the human form of life. And Narada Muni is especially important because he is that expert in both bhakti, this is being underlined here, and he's also expert in terms of what is referred to as material dharma. And these are two important aspects of dharma which uh, which need to be properly understood. It's referred to as swadharma. What is meaning of swadharma? Uh, Swadharma means what is our own natural
Nature.
hmm?
Natural nature.
Yeah, nature, natural nature, yes. I'm just trying to think of another word.
Inherited nature.
Yes. Swa refers to what is natural, correct? So we have a spiritual nature, which is which is what those living entities in the spiritual world are constantly living and experiencing. And Krishna's wonderful arrangement is such that even those who are in the material world, like us, we are in the material world, by adopting the process which is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is recommended by Narada Muni, personalities like Narada Muni, we can also, even in this material world, begin to experience the spiritual world. Actually, uh, that is the um, that is the unique opportunity that is given when we are fortunate to come in contact with, as Narada Muni did, personalities who are living or experiencing what is actually going on in the spiritual world. And the more we become expert in living or experiencing that uh, transcendental realm, which is in the in Goloka or in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, then the more obviously we become qualified to make that transition when we leave this body. That is the whole thing. Uh, and of course, that is mentioned here in so many places. And one of the important um, teachings of both the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that is only possible when we totally sever our connection with the modes of material nature, because it's these modes of material nature that are tying us. Even the mode of goodness, one needs to go beyond the mode of goodness. So Narada Muni is very special. We happen to be part of the Guru Parampara, uh, of which Narada Muni belongs to, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Narada Muni is the second, right after Lord Brahma. And then he's giving this knowledge, sharing this knowledge to Srila Vyasadeva, and in this way we are getting this transcendental knowledge. So uh, this is not mentioned here in this particular purport, but we will see, especially later on in the seventh canto, where Narada Muni gives a whole very detailed explanation of um, what is called material swadharma. What is material swadharma? What is material swadharma? What is material swadharma? Hmm?
For living entity. For living entity.
Yes, for living entities.
Their body.
Hmm?
Their body and the nature of the body.
Yeah, but what is that called? Yeah, yeah. I mean that's why that both deal with um, subject matters that are very um, very profound and very scientific as well. Uh, just like um, you know, in the world in which we are living today, of course, we are we means the general population, the general people in the world are neglecting both spiritual swadharma and neglecting also material swadharma. And because we're neglecting both aspects of dharma, therefore the whole world is in chaos. Very difficult situation. So those who are devotees of the Lord, those who are uh, actually practicing Krishna consciousness, actually Krishna consciousness means to become aware, to be conscious of these two aspects, and to help restore, to help restore these two levels of dharma. We cannot restore only one aspect of dharma. Um, then it means that we are not understanding what is dharma. We cannot just simply be happy chanting Hare Krishna in our temples and not be concerned about, for example, what's happening to Krishna's cows or what's happening with Krishna's, nature, because that's Krishna's energy. Anything that is Krishna and everything ultimately is Krishna's. Ultimately, everything belongs to Krishna, comes from Krishna, is created by Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhu, ata sarvam pravartati, iti madva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Those who actually properly understand how Krishna is behind everything, then one becomes uh, anxious to see that all things in connection with Krishna are properly uh, taken care of. So it means that not only are we meant to be just concerned about going back home, back to Godhead, which we were reading in the purport just a couple of days ago, that actually that's meant to be the primary destination, isn't it? Our destination is to get out of this temporary um, prison-like situation in which we find ourselves. But simultaneously, we are meant to address the issues that are prevalent uh, in our lives today, in this 21st century. It means we are we are meant to be aware of uh, how things are uh, in order, uh, whether things are according to what is given or instructed in the Shastra, uh, again, in relation to Dharma. Um, so, this section, of course, mostly dealing with the level of um, bhakti or devotional service, which Narada Muni exemplifies, of course, in a very ideal manner, which is, of course, very. I mean, it is the essence of what uh, we are, and at the same time, we also need to be aware, and we need to to balance this whole subject matter, let's say, of dharma, and especially when either nowadays, as I mentioned, both levels, both dimensions of dharma are severely um, neglected, and therefore it is meant to be the primary uh, concern and responsibility of those who profess to be devotees and followers of especially a personality like Narada Muni, to be conscious of uh, these two dimensions and aspects of dharma. I will, yeah. Of course, it's interesting how Prabhupada makes reference to some very great personalities like Marichi. At the end of the purport, Prabhupada mentions how rishis, rishis like Marichi are authorities in fruitive work, and rishis like Sanaka and Sanatan are authorities in philosophical speculation. But Sri Narada Muni is the prime authority for transcendental devotional service. So it means there are many levels. I mean, you get into very subtle aspects, and so it's important for us. I mean, we're fortunate to know what is the topmost, the topmost level is personalities like Narada Muni, and whoever follows in his footsteps. Yeah. So I will read the text again. Uh, yes. So Narada is mentioning here. Since then, what does it mean by since then? Since then means since he took birth as Lord, the son of Lord Brahma, isn't it? He was explaining to Srila Vyasadeva how he was the son of a maidservant. Even he mentioned that even before that birth, he was a Gandharva. And because, as the son of a maidservant, because he had performed some pious activities, even unconsciously, he got a good opportunity to associate with these saintly persons, Bhaktivedantas. He got to hear transcendental subject matters. He got to render direct service. He got to eat their remnants, prasadam, which is described as one of the most powerful ways to actually make spiritual advancement. And because he took seriously those instructions given when those sadhus left after being 4 months of the rainy season at one place, when they left, they gave him, is described, they uh, gave him confidential knowledge. They shared with him confidential knowledge of bhakti, which he took seriously, practiced. And then we were reading also how one once when he was in meditation, he got the direct darshan of the Lord. Uh, and then after nicely executing in that life the practice of devotional service, then he was he became the son of Lord Brahma, but liberated son. Liberated son means since then, so that's how this text is beginning this morning. Since then, by the grace of the Almighty Vishnu, I travel everywhere without restriction, both in the transcendental world and in the three divisions of the material world. This is because I am fixed in unbroken devotional service to the Lord. In that context, actually, Prabhupada, one time he was making the remark that I think he was traveling to maybe Africa, and so he was pointing out that actually anyone who is preaching the message of the Lord, there should be no restriction. No one, one should be allowed to travel anywhere and preach the message, which is, of course, not always the case. I think Prabhupada one time was barred from entering one country in Africa. I forget which country. Hmm. Just like it is said also, what is it? The word atiti. What is meaning of atiti? There's titi. Every day there's, like today is special titi. Akshaya Tritiya, yeah. So titi means according to a particular time. Titi, yeah. So those are sadhus. They are described as atiti. Anytime, normally we need an appointment to go somewhere, but sadhus, they don't need appointment. They, how means householders. They, householders means devotee householders. Vyasas. They can and should expect at any time for sadhu to knock on their door, because sadhu is atiti. It means they're beyond the conventions, the natural conventions that are there. And generally, the conventions are there because of this connection with the modes of material nature. But those who are like in the category of Narada Muni, they are above the modes of material nature, so therefore it's a different story. Yeah. So any thoughts or comments on this? How to follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni?
This looks like the fifth canto explains at the beginning of the fifth canto, explains more deeply this principle how to follow someone's swadharma, but still ready to follow the order if it's overwriting the general swadharma, like in Priyavata's case.
In the
So,
beginning of the fifth
yeah,
canto. Okay.
the first chapter.
Uh-huh.
And that is a, which you told, the ultimate authority is Narada Muni.
Mm.
But because he, not because, but also Lord Brahma is ultimate authority in the universe.
Yes.
I generally agree. But in this case, they have different order, different opinion, what should Priyava to do. And first, Priyavata's father, who is also an authority, ordered his son, please enter to the Grihastha life and accept the ruler, become a ruler of the universe.
Mm.
Because he was the next qualified person and he wanted to advance and not retire without giving the responsibility. So this was natural. He
Mm.
was also a liberated soul,
Mm.
but then he wanted to serve someone who continued his service, and he saw that Priyavata is qualified.
Qualified.
He ordered his son, he ordered his, and he didn't say no, no. And he stayed in the remote place. He didn't came back
Mm.
to his father's kingdom.
Mm.
And Narada Muni was there, and Swayambhu Manu went there to order, and he find, oh, nothing happened.
Mm.
And then Lord Brahma came, somehow he understood very special situation.
Mm.
And someone came and told, no, 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 you have to follow that order. And Narada was saying, my father appeared. So, but it was Priyavrata who have to decide. So he have to find out this very special situation, and then in the 12th verse it's mentioned that by special, very subtle intelligence, he understood the situation that there are two authorities, and they have to follow both.
Mm.
How to follow both authorities?
Mm. Mm.
So I have to follow. That's interesting.
Mm.
There, when we study this chapter, we can understand more what you say that we have a material nature. As Brahma explained to, there is a situation in these bulls. The bulls have this ring
Mm.
in their nose, and then they have to follow whatever a very much more weaker person dictates.
Mm.
Some persons are complaining why we put ring into the nose of the bull, but no, that's order of the supreme person. It's not a question of ahimsa. It's a question of properly directing them.
Mm.
If anyone worked with bulls, you know that some days they are very
Yeah.
wild. So we have to control them, but otherwise they will hurt themselves and they will hurt other persons, and then it's not auspicious. So
Yeah.
that's necessary.
Right.
But also, as you told that when we took birth in the material world, also we are saintly persons, still we have to follow that dharma which comes with that situation, with that birth situation.
Mm. Yes.
But my question is that how Prabhupada told, what is the proof that Prabhupada could say we can change, we can create brahmanas? What was that? How is possible then we see that we cannot change that material
Mm.
Swadharma?
the so the question you're asking is it in the context of dharma there is material swadharma and spiritual swadharma. So your question is how could Prabhupada create brahmanas
Yeah, this looks like
from
it's
from
natural,
from groups of people who didn't seem to have
yeah, it looks like not Brahminical by their birth.
well, definitely we're not born in, yeah. So um, Swadharma is connected especially with the modes of material nature. Uh, whereas, I mean, material Swadharma. Swadharma is there on both the material level and the spiritual level. So material Swadharma is connected with the modes of material nature, and therefore uh, under proper direction and by taking some particular training, one uh, one can fall in any of the natural categories that are there. Because Brahmana is also within the material Swadharma, isn't it? Mode of goodness. Yeah. Whereas spiritual Swadharma, our understanding of spiritual Swadharma is in terms of bhakti, because there are two levels of spirituality. I mean, there's Prabhupada describes in the Nectar Devotion, there is spiritual happiness, which is that obtainable by those who are, let's say, Brahman realized. But there is higher than spiritual happiness that Prabhupada describes as devotional happiness. So when we speak of transcendence or spirituality, naturally we speak about bhakti. So bhakti is completely at the perfectional stage above these modes of material nature. So although, yeah, Srila Prabhupada wanted, and he did, he wanted to reestablish society headed by brahmanas, by qualified brahmanas, for that's still in the mode of goodness. And we know how the mode of goodness is at different times influenced by the lower modes, sometimes mode of passion, mode of ignorance. But actually, beyond that, Prabhupada's objective was not simply to create brahmanas. Prabhupada wanted to create Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada's goal was to bring us totally above on the pure transcendental platform. And it is only because the practice of bhakti, when properly executed, can take one actually above these modes of material nature, that he was able to create individuals who were qualified to take up the position of Brahminical activities. So we may be born, we're all born in general, connected with some modes of material nature, but by taking up the process of bhakti to the extent that we are properly applying that process of bhakti, we can rise above these modes of material nature. Now, because it is not so easy to rise above these modes of material nature, that's why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes a very strong and very profound statement when he says that Varnashrama Dharma is for the Vaishnavas in their conditioned state. I mean, we generally think of Vaishnavas as totally liberated. Actual Vaishnavas are totally liberated. Actual devotees are totally liberated, which is not the case of Brahmanas. Brahmana is, most Brahmanas that are existing are maybe in the mode of goodness, should be in the mode of goodness, but they are not necessarily transcendental because most Brahmanas don't know about bhakti, isn't it? Most Brahmanas are generally impersonalists, Mayavadis. So it is only through the power of bhakti uh, that people who may be otherwise totally unqualified can rise above their very fallen status or condition. In Kali Yuga, as it is written and explained, Kalo Shudra Sambhava. Kali Yuga, practically everyone is born Shudra. But it doesn't mean that they are meant to remain Shudras. By taking up the process, then they can be elevated uh, beyond these modes of material nature. Shudra means very less understanding, very much covered in so many ways. So, um, so both levels need to coexist. The level of pure bhakti, striving for attaining pure bhakti, pure devotional service, which is spiritual svadharma, which is being referred to here. Narada Muni being our model, example. And then this whole science. I mean, bhakti is a whole science in itself, the complete science of bhakti devotional service. And on the other hand, the science of material svadharma, which is varnashrama dharma. And if we don't take Hare Krishna, if we don't take these two in consideration, and if we don't endeavor to understand the underlying principles and concepts, then things won't work. We will not be able to achieve things either on the material level or on the spiritual level as it is meant to be. For example, even we as devotees in general, most of our devotees are very less familiar with what is meant to be the natural what is called the natural science of economy, for example. What is meant to be, according to Vedic culture, the way in which majority of people are meant to make a living, which is actually through agriculture, which is through farming, through caring for cows. Actual Vedic economy is based on Krishi Goraksha Vanijam, Vaisha Karma Svabhavajam. Of course, because modern day society has taken us away so far, we can't relate. Majority of us, we cannot relate to that. But the fact remains that modern day society has in a major way deviated from what is meant to be the natural way of living. We're meant, it's only quite recently, it's only the last 200 years that we are deviating in a major way. Up until then, majority of people in India and for that matter around the world, we're living much closer to nature, etc., like that. So that's a major important aspect, which because actually both go hand in hand. Just like Prabhupada would give a lot of importance to maintaining good health. If we have good health, then more easily we can practice our devotional service, isn't it? If we're constantly mentally disturbed because of bodily illness, etc., it makes it more difficult to practice our devotional service. So, in the similar way, if society is malfunctioning as it is today, um, then it makes it very difficult for general people. It makes it difficult even for our own devotees to properly execute actually the principles of dharma, because the principles of dharma in the material world are meant to be um, practiced according to both spiritual and material conditions. You know, of course, one may say, well, this is Kali Yuga, and in Kali Yuga, there's only the chanting of the holy name, and you know, Kalo nasyeva 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 gatirandeta. There's no other way, no other way, no other way. That is true in terms of the holy name is the primary practice that all of us should be taking. At the same time, uh, everyone understands that we also have a material situation, we have a material body, and every day we have to keep this body healthy. We have to eat, um, which means that certain material activities, of course, we perform those activities, so-called material activities. Uh, we're meant to perform those so-called material activities as ordained in the Shastra, which we're not in general. Because as ordained in the Shastra, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the occupation for the vast majority of people is meant to be in connection with cows and lamb. And because we're not doing this in modern day society, look at what is happening, isn't it? The whole planet is becoming destroyed because we are not understanding. Even we as devotees are not sufficiently understanding these principles. You know. So therefore, the importance to thoroughly hear, especially from the Srimad Bhagavatam, because actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as the Bhagavad Gita, more so actually, I would say in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this whole aspect of dharma, of material swadharma and spiritual swadharma comes out. And unless we hear properly, then we will not be able to actually understand, and without proper understanding, we'll not be able to apply in our lives, isn't it? So of course, whenever whenever we have Bhagavatam class, generally we read one verse or maybe a few verses, but that's only one section. Uh, we always need to put everything in context, or at least remind ourselves that there's a bigger picture that we need to be looking at, and then when we look at the bigger picture, then things become more complete and things become more balanced naturally. But yeah, interesting. I mean, in this case, regarding Priyavrata, Narada Muni was, because Narada Muni especially is promoting pure bhakti. Um, but of course, in this case, Priyavrata did take up to family life. Yeah. Which is not, of course, against the principles of dharma. But then we have the example of the Kumaras who refused.
Yeah, they refused without any punishment.
Right.
And they were just young,
And they were, yeah,
devotees, young
yes,
and powerful young, but still they refused.
yeah,
So maybe just a side note that Yes, Prabhupada's main mission to create pure devotees, but for the sake of the general conditional devotees and conditional persons who are not yet devotees but could be uh, changed to for devotees. So he may be thinking that devotees could create brahmanas by their family life, by inviting the next generation, like their sons, not having this Shudra type of body and mind, but having a higher type of body and mind. So maybe he was thinking that we have to train couples to invite higher type of sons if they are not able to get liberated souls.
But it's in the Vedic culture, it's not, well, in the Vedic culture, especially in the context of Daiva Varnashrama, it's not only the Brahmanas become liberated.
Yeah, that's one thing how we liberate everyone, but at least to have a Brahminical nature by birth is possible when the parents are focusing on that. What kind of as high they can think, because maybe they are just conditional
Yeah.
devotees, but they can be at that time when they conceive child, then they can get Brahminical child.
But what does Brahminical nature mean? Brahminical nature doesn't mean only Brahmana.
I mean the nature who is in the category of Brahmanas. I mean that. Of course, we can bring Shudras into goodness. We can make Shudras Brahmanically live. That's what you meant. But still, there are special type of mental and intellectual qualities in the Brahmanas, and there are different qualities in the Kshatriyas, which is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
So there are by birth is there.
Yes. Main
I mean
point,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
main point is to make people into Vaishnava.
yeah, that's the main point. I agree. So we thought that was the side point, not the main point.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, right. So, because anyone who actually has captured what is Vaishnava, the essence of which, of course, is bhakti, devotional service, then he can serve either as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra.
Yeah, sure.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But that's because we have some emergency situation that in the Kali Yuga there is no Brahmanas,
Yeah.
so there are a function in the society for Brahmanas. Someone have
Yes.
better to do something, but no one. Then devotees like Priyavratam sacrifice their
Right.
main goal, just go back home, back to Garthan and chant
Right.
and serve. They have to deal with other services.
Right. Yeah. Mm. Okay. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki. Gaura Pimanandi. Who's garland?